I said, what do you weigh? 195 pounds. And by the way, the old story that used to be fun, Paddy the Baddy, is not the case now. It's Paddy the Brick House. Really. He looked solid. I don't love when a guy cuts beyond a weight class. Now, this is the wrestling coach in me. But when I'm working with kids and they're saying, hey, coach, what weight should I go? I don't have a problem with them getting on the scale and going whatever that weight takes them to. But when you get a little bit older and there's a team, you kind of need a position. I also understand that there is going to be some weight cutting. I'm just sharing for you anytime, whatever you weigh, if you would like to lose the 1, the 4, the 6 pounds to get down to your nearest weight class, fine. It's part of our sport. Whenever you're cutting weight and you got to cut down a certain amount that is a weight class and you ascend to a different weight class, it's a lot to ask of a guy, and I will just tell you right now, it will shorten his career. It will shorten his enjoyment of the career. It can screw up your whole division, because if you get guys that are so big that their biggest battle is the scale, over time, they don't want to do it anymore. And now you got to take a guy that you've marketed and you've counted on and you've ranked in a certain division, and you got to move him up a weight, which we just saw happen with Islam Makhachev, just for a very recent frame of mind. If that isn't recent enough for you, it's what we just saw with Ilia Topuria. Now, Paddy the Baddy's a 155 pounder, and he's well on his way, and he's undefeated, and he's a young enough guy, and he's excited enough in the sport that we're not getting there. I'm just telling you, Chael's rule. Chael's philosophy, more than I would say a rule. I allow the kids I coach to do it. I allow them to choose their own weight. But I will just tell you, when you cut past a weight class down to another, and Paddy is doing that. Paddy is doing Chael's rule times 3. If he weighs 195, that puts him in the weight class of 205. If he weighs 195, Chael's rule would allow him to cut down to 185 pounds. But he is going to surpass that weight class, and he's going to go all the way down to welterweight, but he's not done. He's going to surpass that all the way down to 155 pounds. And I only want to bring this to your attention because Paddy is no different than the rest of them, which is, I'm going to go out, I'm going to have a huge level of success, but let me tell you right now, once I have that level of success, I'm going to go for more success and find it at a different weight class in this case, which will be welter. But I want you to understand this, because how is Paddy the Baddy? See, we have a colossally interesting and difficult situation going on at 155 if we take everybody at their word. Now, the good news is we don't have to do that, right? Guys' opinion and what they say are nothing more than campaigning. There's a decision maker, but let's not play the game that way. Let's take them at their word. Which would mean we're going to get Paddy versus Ilia. Oh, by the way, and we're not going to get it anytime soon. We just can't. We just get, Paddy needs time to get from 195 to 155. There's a process of which he can do relatively quickly, but you're still looking at Madison Square Garden in November, the last pay-per-view of the year in December. I think that you'll see Paddy return this year. I do believe that. But the 195 is very relevant. Paddy has more information than we have. We then have to be detectives and look at the clues that we can get a hold of. And Paddy weighing 195 pounds means that Paddy doesn't have anything currently booked. And if you do the match with Ilia Topuria that everybody right now likes, okay. Well, no, not everybody. In fact, your number one ranked guy, who also had a bout agreement, thus making him your number one contender, most recently alternate, Artem Sarukian, who, by the way, you, the odds makers, have Artem Sarukian versus Ilia as your closest fight. That was a 3.5. My partners, DraftKings, have it as of yesterday. But they had Paddy versus Ilia, just for comparison, A 6-1 spread. All right, so we've got our two guys. Well, except Joe Rogan made a really good point when he talked about Islam coming down. And guys, I told you this from Jump Street. And Jump Street on this whole story was March of this year. And I told you, as badly as you want to make believe Islam versus Ilia is a huge night of business, you're wrong. As much as you might think either one or both of them were such megastars, you're wrong. It's a good night. It's not a co-main event, and they would headline, but you'd have to really work and market. Your arena's not going to sell in advance, but when it's all said and done, it will be very much in line with the other mediocrities, the other interchangeable mediocrities that you put in main events. It's fine. But if you have Ilia do anything first, and it can be anything, if you have him do anything at 155 first, and then you make Ilia versus Islam, you're now talking about a true super fight. And that's the spot that we're in. Joe Rogan brought that to everyone's attention, and I only tell you that. Whatever motivation that Islam might have had to face Ilia, and he didn't have a motivation. Islam said what I said in his own way. He said, you're a 45-pounder that's not even ranked. Come in, get a ranking. Here's what I don't want to have happened. And this was Khabib speaking for Islam. But Khabib said, here's what I don't want to have happen. I don't want to have Ilia come up, lose to Islam, but then in his next outing, lose that one too. Find out in a short period of time that he never belonged at 155, because what that's going to do to my guy is retroactively take away from a glorious victory and not add to the legacy. This was Khabib's point. He let us in on how they were thinking. But you certainly can see Khabib's point, which ties into how right I was from the beginning. Islam versus Ilia now is a complete different story, which would change the motivation of Islam. That would create something very special for Islam. The rankings came out today. They put Ilia number 1. Does that surprise you? Guys, what else could they do? You want to argue Ilia in Islam in a mythical fight? It's like Batman versus Superman. It's LeBron versus Jordan. So now you just want to argue over resumes. One of them's the world champion and one of them's not. You can say, yeah, Chael, but as many times as you would like. It doesn't change the statement. Ilia is the world champion. Islam is the number 1 contender. Both very good. Not the same thing. I mean, do you see the difference? Now, that just tells us that we can go Paddy versus Ilia. This is what a star Ilia is. See, guys always get this wrong. They think they're a huge star because they have something huge coming up. And then when they try to flex on the company and the company doesn't do it their way, they're going, but wait, I'm a big star. I mean, most recently, Jon Jones. Jon Jones had one big fight. See, that was the problem. And that was where Jon misplayed this. He had one big fight. There's not 2 guys you want to see Jon Jones fight. There's not 3 guys you want to see Jon Jones fight. Ilia Topuria right now is in an argument, one better than the next, of who do you want to see him fight. He can go with Paddy the Baddy, huge night of business. He can go with Arman Tsarukyan, who according to DraftKings, my own partners, a huge bite of business. He can go Joe Rogan's route, find a way to get Islam back to the division, huge night of business. What's interesting, any one of those nights of business, if we're taking it a guy at his word, retires Justin Gaethje. And there's massive effects at 155. Generally, you get 3 guys together. You're going to have one guy that's an odd man out. Generally. You'll have 3 guys. One's preserved because he's got the belt. Whatever he says, whatever he does, no matter how much he fumbles his hand or how well he plays his hand, he's still preserved. He's going to the main event with the title that he's bringing. So now you have an argument between the other 2. If anything happens to the champion, the 2 that were arguing end up fighting each other. But we're in a very weird situation right now because Justin Gaethje has made it very clear. Islam has left the division. I don't think he's a realistic component. I used him for an example because it's a name that you would recognize. But I don't believe in this situation that he's realistic at all. In fact, I think that Islam has a real obligation to defend that belt at 170. And I'll tell you something else. I think that history would repeat itself. And if Islam did choose to come back to Ilia Topuria, I believe just like they did when Islam said, I wanted to go after Jack, they will take his belt from him. That's what I believe. I do not believe the idea of double champ is in Islam's future. If he has a motivation, he would like to return to 155. I don't predict for you that he will do that as the champion of the world. Save that thought for another day. Come down to Paddy, you come down to Sarukian. Paddy has the skills rhetorically that are needed for this kind of a media battle. Sarukian doesn't. But Sarukian's ranked number 1 in the world, and Paddy's not. And at the end of this entire argument, you are left with the fallout and the question of what does it all mean for Justin Gaethje?